Fáiltear Nash Grí Shrahadó de Comhrá Le Tomás, I gcór le Eirgrid. Be mé sí le daoine cáiliúil ón Cumann Lú Clas Gael agus tá súlagam go mbeidh sibh tainneamh.
I remember saying to him, "This is some trip, Sean Murray. This is unbelievable." He says, "It's not a trip, Muggsy. It's a tour." And I was like, "No, but you know what I mean." He says, "No, I don't."
So proud there again, D&G. Who they again, D&G? Dalshin Cavanagh. Yeah, to LNG anyway. Larry and Galvin anyway. That's the brand name anyway.
This season, the show is brought to you by Eirgrid. They're the proud sponsors of the Under-20 All-Ireland Football Championship. Not only is Eirgrid delivering a cleaner energy future for Ireland, they are invested in development of our most promising GA players and the managers that help them to shine. Hello lads, Tomás Ó'Sé here. Delighted to welcome you all back for a season 2 of Comhrá Le Tomás. It's a long time coming. We said we'd start off the show with Eamon McGee from Donegal, a man I've admired for a long, long time. But we're delighted we're back with the podcast in association with Eirgrid, so thanks for that. And Eamon, how are you? How are you after the weekend? Donegal match yesterday, I suppose the big talking point is the great Michael Murphy. What's your opinion on that?
Yeah. Listen, first of all, I'm happy that we got off to a good one, and it's all about just getting the next round. But obviously, there's a bit of doubt hanging over Michael. So we'll see. We'll know more in the next week or two. There's questions like people are asking why risk him, and I think we didn't risk a few boys last year, and Donegal were absolutely hammered for it by not giving Cavan respect. So it was a no-one situation, and I think Michael himself, I've seen himself and McGuinness have literally arguing full out in training when McGuinness was begging him to go off the training ground because he was injured. So there's Michael wants to play, hey, and I'm sure that figured into the situation as well. So listen, it's good to get the one, and it's good to get chatting about football, about the championship football. It's hard to beat. If we can get a few more heads now and get a bit of a crowd, we'll be happy men. But we're here anyway, Thomas, and it's good to be here too. Hey? It's enjoyed your first season. Some of the old yarns were good crack now, so hopefully you'll not go too hard on me today.
I leave Frank to tank till later on, and we'll
That's Neil. That's Neil now. Don't be getting mixed up with Neil. I'm the sensible McGee.
Well, from my experience in our team anyway, there was about 6 or 7 Frank to tanks, and I think we just had to kind of just accept that was the way it was going to be. You just have to leave him off for a couple of days and get him back. What was I going to say in terms of Murphy? And I've met him a few times. I'm intrigued by him. Like outside of, you have top players all over the country, and Murphy and what he does with Donegal. And we were arguing before the match yesterday. When I was on television, we were arguing like, what's the difference in having him on the pitch to the players? Like even outside of his general play, Eamon, what does he do? Like, or what does he give you that is Michael Murphy that other players don't really give you? Like, is it that he's driving fellas on? Is it just his presence? Is it that he settles things down? Does he take control? What is it like?
That's the question that's come up a few times. What is it about Michael? And in terms of, it's not just his ability, which is like off the scales here. He's a brilliant footballer, but remember O'Rourke came up with he doubted Murphy in terms of his influence. And I'm not sure was he trying to get at his ability, but in terms of his influence can't be overstated. For if you look at what he brought to his club team himself, and obviously they had a decent club team. They brought 3 county titles to Glenswilly, which is a very, very small area. And they all rode in behind him, and it's the same. It's the same with the county. I always give the example that whenever Michael trained or whenever he played and whenever he brought it to that level, you're nearly shamed and embarrassed if you didn't get to that. If you know what I mean, like that, he was taking it to such high standards. You're there looking at yourself, and I need to get to somewhere near that. And he led by example. He was never one of these boys that gave inspirational speeches or he would grab you and he would F you out of it and say, listen, you've got to do this. He just led by example, and you just rode in behind him. It's that's been the way it has been since he came in as captain. And remember, he was very young when he was made captain under McGuinness, but the lads just all looked up to him so much, the likes of myself and Big Neil Kavanagh. We had a good few years in him, and we still looked up to him as as if he was our senior, and we hung on every word. And that's just the natural leadership that's in him, and that's what he brings to the pitch in terms of the influence he has. There was a stage there where Glenswilly had won the county championship. He was coaching Letterkenny IT. He was Michael Murphy were sponsoring the senior club champions. He was captain of the Donegal team. So in terms of Donegal J, like he had so much influence, and he like everything was positive. He was driving the whole thing, and he just brings so much to it.
I can't. To Brian O'Driscoll, like I saw him play in the flesh a couple of times, and it's very seldom you see somebody who comes in at 18, and you'd be thinking Shawnee Shea now and Clifford and
Mhm.
these fellas who come in at 18 have straight away have a huge impact, and then 12, 13, 14 years later are still doing the same thing. Can you see him in terms of, and I know Brian McAniff gave so much to Donegal down the years and in all different roles. Can you see Murphy being involved with Donegal for a long, long time and at whatever level?
Definitely, I see Murphy. It's in his blood. When we started playing for the county under 14, myself and Cara Lacey were in that age group, and there was a wee his Murphy's dad was helping out in the school excellence it was called at the time, and there was a wee lad just who'd be jumping on the bus every Saturday morning, and that's what he was brought up with. He was going up to the school excellence, and he would sit beside you, and you'd be taking a hand out of him, and he'd be telling him stories, and he's been doing that from a very young age, and he'll continue to do it. Be involved at Donegal at some level. He's involved in Letterkenny IT. He's got a head of sport there, and he's very very driven. He's very professional in what he does, but he'll always be he'll always have something to do with Donegal J because it's just in him. He's no other choice. I can't see him getting away from it. Um, and it's just funny. Like Murphy is universally loved. There's only two people you're not allowed to insult in Donegal, and that's Daniel O'Donnell and Michael Murphy. They're like, if you were to say something negative about me or about Neil, like they wouldn't take too much. But if you say something negative about Murphy, then everybody
Yeah.
jumps to defend him. Hey, and it's the same when you mentioned Brian O'Driscoll. Brian O'Driscoll, I found was the same. Like everybody just loved him, and you've rarely heard anybody give out about him.
I was always, if you we were lucky enough to play with a good few players in our time, and Seamus Moynihan was similar. Seamus Moynihan, that nobody ever come out and say that he was filthy or that he was a thug or he was a ball area on the field. Like they'd come out and they'd say, "Geez, yeah, tough footballer, brilliant footballer." And I think Murphy was the same. And Seamus, I've met Murphy a couple of times socially. And he's able to mix it. Seamus was always able to fucking come out and have the crack, and he'd have the laugh, and the only time I saw Murphy under pressure was when he played and I only saw a video of it on a phone. I got some fit of laughing was when he was in the golf, when he was playing in the Pro-Am above in Ballyliffin. And he was
Right.
taking out his comfort zone, and he had to drive off in front of the pros and everything. It was good crack. Your own club, Eamon, I'm fascinated by because you're very like our lads in
Mm.
terms of the location. I know it is the top of the end of the country and we're down the bottom end, and I spoke to Kevin Cassidy before about it. And you'd have a lot more success than we would have at club level. I don't know if you 15 or 16 county championships.
Mm.
But in terms of the area, in terms of the language, in terms of the kind of togetherness, the whole Comórtas Pella, all of the culture is different to other clubs, isn't it? Is that the same in Donegal? Like, if you compare the Gaeltacht to the likes of Austin Stacks or Rahleys, or is there something different about it? The locate, everything like, and that's the same for you. Like, I was up in your area, and it's very, very like our own in terms of the
Aye.
houses, the summer houses, everything.
Aye, and it's funny saying that because yous would have been a club that I definitely know the likes of myself and Cass and a few others would have looked up to, and I'd imagine it's because of that we had them similarities, and because we shared certain similar traits. But we compare ourselves because Unions, I think they have 14 championships. We're up at 16 now, and we would compare ourselves, alongside them. And you're so right in terms of they're so different. And I don't mean that in a bad way. Like, obviously Unions have massive positives, and so do we. But they're nearly different clubs, and they're. I don't know. There's negatives also in terms of, we're fairly thick. Like, in terms of, we bring a lot of hassle to ourselves. Like, can you imagine, when myself and Cass would have fell out in dressing rooms down through the years, or different players, and one man's thicker than the other, and that, I think that because we come from Gweedore, that brings a certain that's in us ourselves, like. So I don't know, is it all positive?
We have that saying back our way as well. Geez, he's a thick man, that fella. There's a stubbornness in it. It obviously, though, that thickness and that stubbornness, obviously the clashes that you'd have had down the years would have brought you. You both wanted the same thing. You both wanted to win. You both wanted to be successful. The three counties that you won with Gweedore, Eamon, they were
Mhm.
huge for you. Even the latest one. Did you appreciate it more in the latter years than you did the earlier years?
Oh, definitely. It's nearly a cliche at that stage, and I, I'm fed up telling the young fellas that you can't take it for granted, because that's what I would have done. And if I had a time machine to go back and tell myself, don't take this for granted, I just
Yeah,
wouldn't listen to myself.
yeah.
Because in 2018 we won the championship. We were lucky enough to win Ulster. And there's the clock's ticking for me now, like. And I realized that you're
Yeah.
not going to get many more chances at it, like. And when we won, I think it was 2002, 2003, we won our first one, and you're thinking, this is going to be the crack every year, and we're going to be at the top table, and this will bang out 4 or 5 championships, and it'll be. And it wasn't the case. We won one in 2006, and we never got near it after that. Just whatever reasons, we just weren't at the level. We never got near it until, from 2006 to 2018 is 12 years. And it, if someone had told me that in 2002, I would have said not a hope.
Is it like in Kerry? I thought we had a small window of success where it was only whatever it was, 4 or 5,
Hmm.
6 years where we had a very, very solid team. Did you find that coming out of Donegal was the hardest? Because Ulster is typically really, really tough in all areas. But was coming out of Donegal tougher than actually coming out of Ulster for you?
Yeah, terms of 2006, one in the county, because we crossed McGlenn in the first game in 2006 in Ulster. We'd won the county, and it was a massive thing. So we just partied the bit out. Says, sure, listen, whatever we do in Ulster, we'll do, like. And our we'd met our quota. We'd won the county title, and we're happy enough for that, like. And that's probably down to ourselves, where our ambitions were limited, because it was a great cross McLean team, but we still, like, we were drinking for we were at a wedding the week before, and that led into a 2 or 3 day session. Playing Cross McGlenn the following week, and we just didn't give them the respect they deserved, because we had ticked the box. We'd won a county title, and that was a big thing. It was a massive thing, and we were happy with it. And I felt that's been the way with Donegal, because it's so competitive, that the teams up until recently, I think Glenswilly bucked the trend, and Glenties did the same. That they just went into Ulster, and they wanted to compete. They weren't happy with their county title, but when we won it the first few times, that's we were happy. We ticked the box, and sure, what would we be thinking about Ulster? We're not at that level, and that was the mentality that was in Donegal in general, and the county team, and the club teams, that that them bigger things are for the likes of Tyrone or Armagh, or Kerry. Let them talk about All Irelands, and we'll talk about the smaller stuff.
Yeah, it was the. Do you know as you were talking there, and the crack and the banter and the stuff with the club, like we were very lucky we had success with the county, but the success with the club, I don't know, there was something about the crack and the banter afterwards. Now, you compare to the early days you won and compare to the last days, and I suppose everybody, we were lucky enough when you compare, say, our club with your club, the connection as
Mm.
well, I say, the madness. Kevin Cassidy obviously piped it out to the rest of the country. But that's the madness that I am on about that. I suppose every club has it. But I
Yeah,
just
yeah.
think you talk about Comhra to see Pell and the Gaelic and all that. There's just a madness in the west of Ireland that I think the west of Clare, the west of Galway, they all have it. The west of Mayo, there's just there's a connection there all along that west coast. And Jesus,
There's
that
a rawness. I think I don't know what it is now, but there's something. There's something there, all right. There's just a rawness to them because I was reading an interview Carrie Kane did with Neil at the weekend there.
I
It was
read
a
it.
good
Yeah.
interview, and it just took me back to that video you mentioned, the Cassidy, them calling out Cara Finlick, and obviously I was home with the Waynes, and I was looking at this video, seen it on Twitter, and I was texting, get that bloody down to hell, and you know and the boys are all telling me to f off and cop on. And when I look back at it now, when I look back at it, it was a wild crack. And as Neil says, you can't take yourself too
Yeah.
seriously. It was a bit of crack, and um, because I was still in that frame of mind. No, don't. They'll be talking about that in their dressing room that these boys are calling us out. And after a day or two, I kind of copped on and says it's just a bit of crack now.
What was it like? Because obviously I had two brothers playing with the county, but with the club, would you drive yourselves on? Would you get on well? Would you like always? If I missed one training session, I'd get a call from Dara saying, "Hey, boy, what the fuck is
Aye.
your fucking story like?" Was he the
You,
fella pushing you, and were you pushing him all the way through? Like,
you can't bluff the boys. Like, you can't say if you have brothers, you can't bluff them at all. Hey? And it's exact same. If I missed a session, if I was injured or something, like there would be a wee look of doubt in Neil and saying like he would never say something directly, but he would just kind of say, hmm. And
yeah,
that kept you on your toes. And it was more so him that would have been getting on to me. It was a kind of he was the younger, but he was kind of saying leading the way in terms of standards and expectations and all that. Like, but you might have bluffed someone from that was in a different club, but you never ever bluff Neil, and you were the same. You couldn't bluff the brothers. Um, and in terms of
no,
did we get on, we did more giving out. I remember in the All Ireland against you boys in 2014. There was a fucking wild hullabaloo over some ball that I should have went for or something, and he was roaring at me and I was roaring at him, like, and I lifted the fist to him, like, and this is in the All Ireland final. I lifted the fist to him, and I was chatting to him afterwards. We had a few pints that night, and didn't even register with him. Hey, I didn't even don't even remember that. Like, and I said, "See,
yeah.
sorry about that. I lifted the fist to you. It's not like me." And he says, "Don't even remember it." Hey, and that's just the probably goes back to that kind of rawness that we talked about now. But no, we would have never been lovey-dovey brothers now. But like, listen, at the same time, if you were to come in and give one of us a clip now, the two of us would be up to. We're allowed to fight with each other, just not anybody else is allowed to fight with ourselves.
Were you the same with us? Did you socialise together then afterwards? Like, because we'd Kerry as Donegal. Geez, I drove Donegal, and what a place! Like, but it's massive. It's like Kerry, like,
Hmm.
and after matches, the South Kerry lads would shoot off, the West Kerry lads would shoot off, the freaking North Kerry lads would go their own way, the Killarney lads would go their own way. Which is the same with you in terms of, and because, geez, this is something I was going to ask you as well. Like, I think you compare your starting time with Donegal, which we'll come to, and the end. Look, there's some difference in terms of what social activity meant in both eras. Like crazy, wasn't it?
Massive change now. And probably for some of us all for the better. But that's the thing. That's in terms of the boys used to take a wild hand of us, like, because me and Neil wouldn't say one word to each other, and we're training, and we'd be in the same groups, be it in the club or the county kind of cliques or whatever way you want to call it. We'd be all in the same, and we wouldn't say one word to each other. And then you put a few pints on top of it, and then I might come out and say, "Geez, Neil, Brogan got the better of you today. Like, what's going on?" Or Neil says, "You were fucking hiding there today," and this crack would get up, and the two of us wouldn't say boo to each other without the pints, and the boys used to find this hilarious. Like, I remember on the bus coming back from a few games, like same thing again. Neil, few beers in him, he'd go up to the top of the bus and. He'd call me out on the mic no on the mic up on the top of the bus, and he'd say, you're like a donkey's prick. You're only big when you're out, Mickey," or something like that. There, some of these rare statements, and the
That was
boys just
Frank the Tank on the go.
that was Frank the Tank would come out after 4 or 5 pints, and the thing about it, the lads enjoyed it that much that they would start egging me on. I say, "No, I'm not going to take him on. I'm not going to." And then Big Neil or someone or Kavanagh or Murphy would start, "Geez, are you going to take that? Cheeky bastard." Like, and the crack would get up, we'd be up the back of the bus and we'd be giving out to each other. And, sometimes it would actually got heated enough now, but no, we were always in the same, when we were out socializing, we were always in that same kind of, that same group. And even when we headed back down the road to Gweedore, like, we'd have been out amongst ourselves, all right.
Yeah, I met him. I remember I met him. He was obviously in Frank the Tank mode as well inside
Mm.
in Coppers one night, and it was like it reminded me of the In-Betweeners. You know, your man dancing across the dance floor, except he was bouncing, he was bopping the head, and I was thinking this could go either way. Now you could headbutt me, or you could fucking hug me, and he actually hugged me with a good old cracking a laugh. What was the first time that you was it 2003 or four, that you came into the county panel?
2003, I think there was the winter 2003. The winter 2003. I think Neil came in the following year. But the winter 2003, McInniff asked me in, and Kevin Cass, in fairness to him, he was like, McInniff was saying, "What about these two McGees?" And Cass is, "Yeah, you want two boys that'll go the well, you take these two up, and you need them on, you need them, at training." And he fought our case, and McInniff took me up in 2003 and took Neil up the following year. And it was night and day, as you say, when we started off and when we finished. It was just, in terms of expectation, in terms of the gym, Jesus, if we'd all this information now as we did back then, we'd be, I'd have about
Yeah,
4 or 5 all-stars, and
yeah.
would
It
have been
is like
flying.
if you and it was nobody's fault. Sure, McAniff was I don't know, was it 5 or 6 times that he was in charge of
Mm.
Donegal, like an unbelievable man, like and an unbelievable. And you went through like there was Brian McAniff, wasn't there? Was it John Joe Doherty? Was McIver before John Joe Doherty?
McInniff, McGaver, John Joe, and then
And then
Jim
Jim.
McGuinness, and then Rory.
Yeah,
Rory. That was the managers that I would have played on. Hey, and all good people. All good people. Definitely, I
all
can't
great.
say
Donegal for you, yeah.
all great Donegal. They would, like, they love their county, and I can't say that I had any issues with any of them. Um, Obviously, I brought a lot of issues to nearly all of them, and they always fought
Yeah.
my corner, and they always try and look out for me. And um, I think there was actually an issue with being dropped under every single one of them when I think back to it. I think it was four times.
I had those issues myself.
Bar Rory Gallagher. I was on the well settled by the time Rory came along now. But the rest of them, there was always something, and good. They were just good people that kind of, they just had your corner, and they wanted Donegal to do well.
What was the What was the big thing with because look, there was always like when we went to matches and people thought, oh, because Kerry were whatever halfway successful or anything, that we had our issues in terms of socialising as well. Like, and we packed the
Mm.
bag good. We used to love listening to the stories about the Donegal lads that they'd come with. Now I don't know was it true or not true that they'd come with 2 bags to the matches, and I used to love. We used to have everything inside in the one bag. We'd have 3 sets of clothes for the week because we weren't
Aye.
expected back to training until Wednesday, and we would literally go missing for the 3 days. And Kerry's a big county, and they couldn't track us. But what was the big difference when McGuinness came in? Like, was it just a complete? he had to get buy-in, and I suppose if he came down with an iron fist altogether,
Mm.
it mightn't have worked. Like, what was this? I don't know, the special ingredient that man brought on, because I've
I'll
unbelievable
tell you,
confidence.
in terms of, first of all, go back to your point. Yous were a lot flyer, and I noticed that about a lot of counties, that they were smarter in terms of how they went about the partying, because they were like, I would imagine you boys were doing as much as us, but we weren't
Mm.
fly at all. Like, we were going out in the middle of Letterkenny, in the biggest town in the county, and it was all about us roaring and shouting and jumping about with tops off, and just putting a big target. And imagine you were just that wee bit, because I would have known my old lads from college, and they were just smarter in terms of, they would have done same amount of drinking, same amount of partying, and they were just smarter in terms of the way they went about it. But for McGuinness, obviously there was a culture, and I always say the drinking was a symptom of the weakness that was in Donegal. It
Yeah.
wasn't all about the county. It wasn't a drinking culture, because, as says, Kerry's boys were at it, the Mayo boys were at it, the Tyrone boys were at it, and we knew that they were at, but they also ticked a lot of the boxes that went along with being a county player, and we didn't, and we just bloody partied it out without doing what was required in terms of the training, in terms of being all about Donegal county team. And McGuinness, that's the thing that he wanted us to be so committed, so obsessed with, you know, being the best version of ourselves for Donegal. Then he, I always say this, when we started out, McGuinness, there was go back to that word, the clique there of myself, Big Neil, Kavanagh. Toy was always sensible. He wasn't one of them. Me, Big Neil, Kavanagh, probably Neil McGee was in that group, Cass was in that group, and one of us were going to go. Whoever
But in
stepped out.
fairness, a good group, like, you probably had your crack in the day with.
And that's the thing. It would have been handy to get rid of us, but like, we're flipping good players too, in amongst it. And one person from that was going to go, and that was McGuinness, going to set the right. This is it now. Someone was going to be the fall guy, and it's funny, was myself and Kavanagh laugh about it. I gave him the opportunity about 2 weeks, because Kavanagh went out and messed about, or he went out for a night out and missed the gym session or something. 2 weeks after I had given the opportunity, and I just wondered if Kavanagh had done that, if it was flipped,
Oh, yeah,
would
yeah, yeah.
would Kavanagh have been the first to go? Because once the boys seen, oh, McGee's gone, like, and this man's serious about it. This was the opportunity, and um the boys all kind of had to be on their best, and meet that standards that he was talking about. And it wasn't it, people say that, oh, he was talking about All Ireland's. It took a while for the boys to really really buy into it, in terms of the belief
I
that
was going to
we
ask,
can.
how long did
Yeah.
it take him? Like, because I got involved in club management now, and it's you try to put in stuff into place. How long did it take ye as a full unit to kind of say, yeah, you can't do it overnight, you can't do it over a
Mm.
chat? Like, how long does it take to actually, when you say, when McGuinness came in, was it 6 months? Was it a year? Did it take a full national league and a championship, or how long do you reckon it took for you to?
I would say it took, until we won that Ulster. I think the system, the way we played, we're kind of bamboozling a lot of counties in Ulster, and then you're sitting there with a medal in your back pocket, and you have the Anglo Celt, the Ulster Cup. And I'd say is then that's when the penny sank, or the whatever the way you say, the penny dropped. That
Yeah.
w- this man, if we really really go at it, then this man's going to deliver us more. And we went back at it in 2012, and we had to add a wee bit onto the game in terms of the offensive side of it. And thankfully it worked out. But until we won Ulster, I don't think everybody was 100. And it's not a bad thing. Like, it's just natural that you'd gone from 12 years of what just been kind of talked about as a team with loads of potential, and then
Yeah.
just mentally weak. So it's not going to happen over one or two chats, and it's going to be a gradual process. And I think when we seen Murphy lift Anglo-Celt, then that was the that was the moment.
Yeah, do you know the like a lot of people they say Donegal and they say defensive like, but I played against you that time, and I
Mm.
don't think there's enough talk about because a lot of teams try to copy what you were doing after because of the success you had. But you obviously spent a lot of time on your attacking game, and your attacking game was freaking brilliant in terms of the way you moved, in terms of the way you moved at pace. And then you had the McFaddens and Murphys up the field who were able to score. Did you spend an awful lot of time, obviously on the defensive side of it, but just as much on the offensive side of it?
In 2012, that was the string to be added to the bow, and we talked about it, and we were aware of it, and this is McGuinness was talking about all year. We were going to bring this, running game and getting ahead of the ball, and once we did that, that kick pass that would been a show great example of in the 2012 Murphy's goal in 2012, and that would have came naturally. But we were just going to work on just getting ahead of the ball and counterattacking at pace, and it was all about getting, building that foundation the first year and then adding to it. And even 2014, big thing that we added, we was the kickouts. It got us over the line against Dublin. Unfortunately, use buggers then spoiled the party. But that was something he wanted to add some every year. It was the defensive the first year, get that started. Offensive, how we attack, get that started, and then 2014 we added the kickouts to our game.
Was the winning in 12, was that was obviously the icing on the cake of your whole career, I presume. And I wouldn't even compare club and county because it's not fair because the counties and the
No,
Ulsters that you win with the club, it's different, but it's equally as special. But in terms of the county, that was the nirvana of the whole lot, wasn't it?
aye, and just on that, when you said something like, did you ever get that in terms of? I hate that question. What was better? What was better? Like, and I think they're two different things. The success with club and success with county. Like, and
Yeah.
I didn't want to get. I was annoyed. I get annoyed anytime I get asked that, and it's just it's good to hear you say that. They're two
Totally
different
different.
things.
Yeah. It is because
Um,
the club is only what? There's only, geez, at our games out, there was a lot of people coming home for the big games.
mm,
And Jesus, the crack you have with the lads, the crack was I remember the crack more often than I do the actual matches themselves. But you can't. It's unfair to compare both because it's two different things. And if you broke it down, if you sat down with the club lads and you went through everything you went through and what you won, and you come out of that room and you ask straight away what was better, the club or the county, you'd probably say the club straight away just because of it. But it's not. You can't compare both. But what was the sorry, coming home, and I don't want to go into it. Because you've mentioned him a good few times, and he's obviously a big part of your story. Is
yeah.
Cassidy, and just tonight, I don't want to. I'm not going into why what happened and what was it right or wrong. I don't. I have no interest in that. But just tonight, you probably did feel. Did you hook up with him, say after that, or did you make contact with him to come out that night? Sure, he was probably in his own bubble.
No, we knew better. Like in terms of that homecoming to Gweedore, hey, it's funny now. Is that I haven't really talked about it much, but on the Tuesday I was getting a bit tired. I'd flipping reach my quota, hey, and I said to McGuinness, listen,
Yeah,
the boys are coming to Gweedore on the Wednesday. I want to get home and get a good rest. And he says, yeah, no bother. Away you go. So I rang the old boy and he picked me up in Ardara and he took me down to Gweedore and I says, do you know what? Kind of got my second one. Stop in here. I'm gonna head in here for a pint. There's two settlers, and I'll get a bit of sleep. And sure, don't you know, I ended up going till flipping the early hours of Tuesday morning, and
as
up
you would.
again then in the as you would, and up again then on the Wednesday, and away again over to there's a way local. I would have gone back in the days, back in the dark days as I call them, and I was just called over there to the boys on the Wednesday. And then there was a kind of panic about Gweedore then that they couldn't get a hold of me. There's no coverage in the spot. The bus was, I think it was in Termon or something. There's still no word Eamon, and there's a big kind of procession waiting outside the granny's house, and panic was setting in, and they were texting and ringing, and they were going around a few pubs looking, and I landed. They eventually got me, and the elbow, drove me up to meet the boss, say, and I landed on the bus, and McGuinness just looked at me, and he says, "I thought you were to get a few hours sleep and be in good form," and I just laughed at him, hey, and we drove down, and it was a great memory, because outside the granny's house, just next door to us, was just packed with people, and it just brought me right round, and me and the two brothers came out, and there's just some amount of people there, big crowd. But in terms of Cass, like, we knew better, kind of, we're about long enough that he would have been sore, and a few weeks after, I took the cup down to Gidor to do a bit of visiting, and take it around a few houses, and I just texted him, and I says, "Listen, you want to get a picture with the wee ones?" And it was just out of respect for him, and he says, "Nah, I'm grand," and that was understandable too, like, because he was sore about it. He was like, "Listen, we talked about it for a long time, but fortunately he wasn't there on the day we won it, so he definitely would have been sore about it, and it might have been too close to the bone to get a picture or anything with it, like."
Were you happy? I presume you were, because I've seen mentioned a few times what you had with the club afterwards. Then went a
Aye.
lot in terms of not, I don't know, making things. I don't know. I don't even want to know the ins and outs of it. But it was good for all of you. What happened with the club after?
I think you know yourself that when you're going, be it training or when you're going out to play a game, and you see someone that has your back, like I would have had Kevin's back, Kevin would have had my back, and that over and over right throughout the year, and it was never where we sat down and we had this big long heart to heart. It was just a case like, listen, there's always been respect there. Listen, Kevin's one of the best players that's played for Donegal. He's have respect for me too, and there's always been respect there. And just to see that year that we were successful with the club, just to see that, that this man, you just had good time for him. You had good time for him, and you kind of forgot about all the nonsense that that went before it. Like.
Are you say that Donegal team? Do you? And again, comparing it to our gang, you'd hear of some teams and they kind of. Now, I know there's some players still, Murphy's still involved with Donegal.
Mm.
Would you have been tight in terms of doing group stuff or getting together once a year, or just Kerry don't
Aye.
fucking get together at all?
Aye, it's funny too because it goes back to that club versus county thing. It's not even club versus county; it's club and county thing. You know, Christy Toy would be my best friend, Big Neil's best friend, Kavanagh there too, and we would run about away from it. Like we all meet up there probably once, twice a week, and that's I'm based in Letterkenny now, and that's probably my group. Like obviously I love to get into Gidor and all that, and you still have them lads that you grew up with, and but probably my group and who I would chat to them. I've chat to Big Neil most days. We always have a bit of gossiping that we do and giving out about this and giving out about that, and on about the games at the weekend, and um but we definitely that's something. And obviously there's lads that have been part of the journey with Donegal that you don't interact with as much, but
Yeah.
it's that core group that would have been, go back to that clique that we talked about, the tracksuit ravers that we would have been out in the Donegal tracks at about Letterkenny, hey, just you know till the early hours, that they're still,
But
a lot of them are still my good friends.
but it doesn't, like you talk about. There's no team in the country. There's no team, I think, in sport that are all going to be best friends and the whole 25 of
Yeah.
them go out together regularly or anything like. But that's the beauty of team sport. Like you have cliques within the group, but once you cross the line, then sure all it mattered that you were together on the pitch, and that's what you had. What was I going to say? In terms of and there, we won't stay on much longer. But in terms
Yeah.
of management. I've seen you got involved with the 20s a couple of times and you're involved with them now. And tis the Eirgrid are sponsoring the whole thing. What is, before I get into the coaching side of it, because tis on a selfish side of it, I'd be asking you about that. What do you think that the 20s, are you looking forward to it? How are you fixed? Who are you going up against? Do you think they could have done something more for that championship? It's the only one. If you look at the minors, there's a back door. Now I know we're in
Mhm.
strange circumstances. If you look at the seniors, there's a back door, and then the 20s is a back door. I know there is no back door in the 20s. Do you think that the 20? I think the 20s is a serious window for the seniors. A lot of minors don't make the seniors, whereas a successful 20s team do make the cut.
Yeah,
And do you reckon they could be doing
definitely,
more?
definitely. I think in general, but we have to remember this is a pandemic year and we're in strange
Yeah,
times, and the GA are doing their best from what I can see. What the fixtures of trying to keep clubs happy, trying to keep the inter-county side of it happy. So we'll take that this year. But going forward, I think it's a competition that deserves an awful lot of respect as that stepping stone on to county and senior inter-county. I think there when you look at Kerry, Declan O'Sullivan's down there, like probably one of the Kerry greats, and to have someone of that caliber um involved in Kerry, then it's if he's willing to put the time in, then the competition deserves an awful lot of respect. And we have to do more, provide more games, and it's about making a fuss of the lads too, that that they see when they open up the paper, and they see a wee write up about themselves, and this kind of spurs them on, and it'll spur some on. It won't spur some are motivated differently, but you know what you're like there as an 18 19-year old, and you see something in the paper about a game you played in, and we want more good coverage, we want good competition, be it the league, a championship, and a back door. And it's just, for me, it's about building that bridge, instead of
yeah,
firing lads out the highest they might have played at a senior club level. And we have to remember, we all love club, and you love club, I love club, but there's a massive gulf there. You can't go from, a senior club team into a senior county team anymore. There's a massive
yeah.
gulf there at the minute. And that under 20 bracket is the best way for a lad to go to put him in. And, he doesn't have to wait then the 3-4 years to bed in, as
Do
we
you
might have seen previously.
Yeah, do you think with the 20s, and I have a great time, and you won a few Sigersons with Sligo,
Hmm.
didn't you? Like, do you think, is it too tough for, I saw Shawnee Shea in college there now, where he was trying to balance, he won a Sigerson with UCC, he was trying to play Kerry under 20. Now, I know there aren't too many of them that would play the whole lot, but it's a very tough window. Do you think we could all, like the communication? I think you look for Sigerson players. I think Sigerson is a great competition. I think,
Brilliant
especially for the
competition.
weaker counties, if you can make the cut at Sigerson, you're playing against the likes of the Shawnee Shays, you're playing against the likes of whatever Paddy Durkins, and if you can cut it against those fellas, or if you can live with those fellas, then
Hmm.
it augurs well. And there's always players from the so-called weaker counties that are serious players that make it at Sigerson. And I think the Sigerson is all but dead, Eamon, to be honest with you. And what happens basically in Sigerson is you don't get them at all, and you come to the day of the game, and you'll have 15 fellas you haven't seen for the whole season. Like,
Yeah.
it's very hard in the calendar season the way it is to fit it in, but it is in a part. It's like the 20s. It's fucking vital, like, isn't it?
I've wild time for the Sigerson. When you think back to you mentioned the weaker counties, I say that within inverted commas now.
Yeah,
Fella, and I think he was as good a fullback as I've ever seen, was John McKeown from Leitrim. And that was his opportunity to mark to play with big players, and to mark the big players that he get a run of games and that he might not have got with Leitrim, like, and get the respect that he deserved. And
yeah,
listen, don't get me wrong, he's a proud Leitrim man. He loved putting on the jersey, and he enjoyed that. But for me, like, it's talents like that. I always go back to John McKeown when I think back of the Sigerson and the players I played with some good players. We had to pick Mayo players, you know, Mayo play, Mayo players, Monaghan players, the Donegal players, Cavan players, and wide selection of players, and some very good ones. So it's a competition like the under 20s that you can use to get that. But again, it takes communication. It takes, a manager parking his ego, which I
yeah.
think is in the club game, is in the county game, in the colleges game, or whatever. All these coaches going around worrying about themselves, like worrying about me, and not worrying about the player. And you know, that's what we need a park and start talking, going back to player centric.
Do you enjoy the coaching? Do you take on coaching hands on with the Donegal 20s now?
I enjoy the coaching. Like, listen, I'll never, and I say that never. I don't think I'll ever be a manager because you have all these different, logistics and sorting out problems with county boards and you know looking for gear, tickets, whatever, etc., etc. I just want to get to the pitch and do a bit of coaching, and I enjoy that. Like, you always tell if you really enjoy something is when it just eats. You look at the clock. I look at the clock at 7 o'clock. Session starts, and suddenly the boys are tapping me on the shoulder. Listen, it's half 8. You need to go here. Where we've
Yeah.
food coming. We need to get off the field, like, and it's just gone like that. It's gone, and I say, "Are you serious? It's half 8," and that's when you know you really like something. And listen, we'll see. We'll see. I might turn out to be 4 years. I might say, listen, I'm no good at that coaching. Like, and I'd like to think I wouldn't be one of these boys that just get on the circuit, get a few pound, get on to the next club, get a few pound. We see so many of it, and they're average coaches, and they're taking whatever's the latest fad, they'll take it in, and they don't understand it. Be it the McGuinness, mass blanket, be it this crack now with the high press, and they don't understand it. They're saying push up, and then they concede 4 or 5 goals, and he'll say, "Why did you not push up?" And this is what'll happen. All the coaches will start going towards this high press without understanding it because it's the latest thing to do, and they'll get hammered out the gate. So
Yeah.
it's. I'd like to think I wouldn't become one of them coaches, but we'll see. You might come to me in 5 years, and I'm one of these going from club to club to club, as long as I get my check in the end of the week now.
If it was, I have to ask it at the end. Do you see anybody? Because obvious one would be Kerry, maybe the way they're playing at the moment.
Hmm.
Do you see what Dublin have done there now? It's freaking phenomenal. Do you see anything stopping, like in terms of the quality that they'll have going down the road,
No,
without
I
getting
think
into?
yeah, I think we have to make peace with the fact that Dublin are going to be thereabouts. They're going to be, whatever happens from here on in, they're going to be in the top four. All right,
Yeah.
Kerry can beat Dublin. Donegal can beat Dublin if things go right. After that, you're looking around. Tyrone aren't. They're going to take a year or two before they get to that level. Possibly Galway, if they can get things right. Mayo, obviously, they're not going to Killian this year. Um they're not going to figure this year from what I can see now. But Dublin are they're going to be thereabouts now. In terms of sustainability, in terms of putting pressure on county boards that to try and keep up with that's another question. But at the minute, it's Kerry, Donegal, and Tyrone maybe next year now.
You're looking at Dublin, and the only way, I don't think you'll ever have, like, forget the money thing for a second now,
Hmm.
population, whatever. The only thing, and you probably see it in Kerry and you'd see it in counties, you don't see it in your own Donegal. When positions change, and you talk, it might be something in terms of the county board, it might be the way they work things and they might tweak things. And then it might have an effect on another part of the system that has been going along. And then managers might change, coaches might change, players might change. And you'd say there's no reason for them to get weaker, but those changes might, well, that's what I'm hoping fucking happens anyway, might make them
Aye,
just that
listen,
small
we're
bit.
we're all hoping, and we don't mean that to be anti-dub now, but it's just to make
Exactly.
the competition. I think when you know the Dubs kind of start saying, "Oh, these boys are all anti," we're not. We're not. There's nobody been more praise of from what you've read and from what I've read from you and from what I've listened to you. Nobody has been more praise of Dublin than me or yourself. Like, and we just want the competition to be exciting. And what I'm hoping to go back to that thing about ego is that there's one or two egos come into the Dublin setup and just upset the apple cart there for a few years, and that
Yeah.
p- but because at the minute there's such from the county board to the team to the management, everything's so well run, and we can learn an awful lot from it. because you take finances away from it. Like they have running an efficient machine, and you look at the handling in Meath with the under 20s, over players, the senior players, and Meath having a
Yeah,
hope of beating Dublin in the Leinster Championship. So what's better for them to hold on to Bernard Flynn and the backroom team that he put together, a serious backroom team, or to go out into this year's Leinster team with a few on the under 20s, and think short term
yeah,
rather than long term, and that's the journey county boards have to go on rather than keep on shouting about money, money, money. There's a lot of stuff they can do and a lot of boxes they can tick, and then go once they get their house in order, then go looking for money and saying, listen, we're doing everything right here. Let's start sharing this about. But at the minute, like if you some county boards you wouldn't trust them with a fiver, or
yeah.
they just are badly run.
No. Before I leave you go, Eamon, do you, outside of football and outside of, I know you're involved and you have a young family and that'll take up a pile of time. I know myself with the coaching, and I'm doing the same thing myself. Like it is hard to find time for anything else. But do you play? I know I met you above in a golf club. Do you play any bit of golf? Do you do anything? What makes you tick outside of the sport and family?
I don't play much golf now. I'd say if you were to ask Murphy and Big Neil about the golf now, they shake
Neil
their
has
head
me
now.
invited up. I'm going to go up. I'm going to go up with Big Neil, and they're going to get us out in Ballyliffin, and
Well,
I
I'll,
can't
I'll
wait.
I'll be with you there now because I always like to sneak off whenever they have these four balls organised. I like to sneak off with them now. We were actually meant to play over in Dubai there one year. We went and played, and I says I'm going along with you boys, whatever course with the boys had booked into, and I says I want to see what it's like, and they were being very very secretive about it. So in pure thickness, I says I'm going, and that's it. And the boys say, what are you going? You don't even like golf. So we landed up on this, flipping. There were millionaires, whatever, this top of the range golf course, and met Paul McGinley's brother, and I knew then why they wanted to be secretive because Andrei Shevchenko was over and he was looking to get out on with a four ball, and Shevchenko says, no, 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 use a four. I'll get out in the next four ball. I get out in the next four ball, and the boys are sick. Hey, we've lost out in the four ball with Shevchenko to take a clown like you. Hey, and I packed it in after 9 holes, so there'll be no golf for me now. But no, do you know what I like? I like reading. I like reading, and I like heading out in the evening time. I might play a bit of PlayStation. I don't think you'd be something you'd be into. Is this gaming crack now? But I might play a bit of PlayStation, read a bit of books, and it's a lot of times taken up with the family, hey, and trying to
Yeah.
get that balance right. Of making sure that you're not
Balance.
missing
It's
out
all
too
about
much.
balance, isn't it?
It's
Yeah.
all about balance.
Well,
It's all about balance. It's not something us county players would have been too good at. We need a bit of like a bit of guidance with it now. But once you get the balance right, you're happy out.
it was all famine and the feast with me. I'm trying to freaking search for the balance in my life in general, and it's a tough battle, but we'll keep going on. Eamon, I could keep talking by, but I love the chat by, and I wish you well with the 20s in the Eirgrid All Ireland, and thanks a million for coming on board. And it's the first episode of the Comhrá Le Tomás, and I'm delighted it was you because I've fierce time for you down the years and what you achieved and the way you achieved it as well, actually. So, gur míle maithagat agus be me caiintle tuas agus fáil huas betus a lin. I'll get Big Neil and we'll have a forum. Thanks again to our sponsor, Eirgrid, proud supporters of the Eirgrid Under-20 All-Ireland Football Championship and leaders in Ireland's pursuit of a cleaner energy future. Don't forget to follow, subscribe and review. Gur míle maithagat.